So balance of payments may we can do the correction. So about the correction, right? Correction in balance of payment. Now, why do you need a correction first? Well, maybe if you have a surplus and it's not balanced, you want to correct the problem. Or maybe you have a deficit and you know it has its own problem and you want to correct it. Now, remembering a balance of payment has three accounts. You have the current account, you have the capital account, and you have the financial account. Correction of any of these can correct the balance of payment. So usually what should happen is current account plus capital account plus financial account should give you a 0. Okay, that means it's balanced. But if it's in a positive, that means you have a surplus. And to deal with surplus, all you need to create is outflows, negative values. So from the current account perspective, you can import more stuff, उससे आउटफ्लो हो जाएगा, करेंसी मैनेज हो जाएगी, या बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट ठीक हो जाएगा, you know, or you can give out more aid and charity and donation stuff like that. Money can go out, surplus can be dealt with that. So there's a lot of things that can happen. From the capital account point of view, from the capital accounts point of view, basically if you purchase land, embassies in the foreign economy, money can go out, surplus कम हो जाएगा. और financial account के अंदर if you invest abroad, a lot of money will go out and surplus easily deal हो जाएगा. Dealing with surplus is not a problem. All you need to do is spend more money in the international market and get more goods and services from there. So that's not a problem at all, in fact. The problem is when you have a deficit. Okay, because we've learned deficit को correct करना, deficits के जो problem है वो थोड़े से ज़्यादा problematic हैं. So deficit को ठीक करना है तो what you need to do is, in terms of correction, you need to create streams of inflows somehow. Okay, now how can you create inflows or reduce your outflows? That's how you deal with the balance of payment ka deficit. So from the major current account perspective, there is one policy which is called expenditure switching policy. Now, as far as expenditure switching policy, as the name suggests, switching is that what you want is you want the domestic people to buy domestic goods and not foreign goods. Okay, so you want to discourage imported goods and encourage domestic goods. At least this will reduce imports. How do you do it? What's the method for it? Well, we say bada simple hai. You use the barriers to trade. Barriers to trade. Now, इसको बहुत full discussion we will be doing in international trade, barriers to trade, so you can look into that. So barriers to trade के अंदर जो major आता है, you have import duties, you want import duties to go up, you want to raise the quotas. That's a physical limit on the goods that can be imported into the country. Okay, these are the major two major ones. Then you can even have like things like embargoes, which are bans on goods and services, on certain goods and services. So that will even reduce imports. There was this thing called VER, voluntary export restraint, which was telling the foreign countries to send less of their goods in good faith, as it's hurting our economy. So, or we can always put import duties and all that, so we don't want any kind of retaliation. So this is like in good faith, you're telling the foreign economies to stop sending their goods so much. Iske alawa, there are more, something like subsidy, yeah, giving out subsidies to your industries. Subsidies से क्या होता है? The prices fall. And when the prices fall, you can export more, and you can import less. So overall, when imports go down, okay, when imports go down, your balance of payment में जो current account है, it will start to improve. That's our hope. That's purely the idea over here. We want people to buy local things more. You have to make sure that in these policies, the government is supervising these policies properly. Pakistan, unfortunately, when the government raised the import duties and made things expensive to come into the country, so the problem was that a lot of smuggling was happening. So when smuggling keeps on happening, the prices are relatively lower, and not much discourage factor comes into play then. So you have to make sure that the government is doing good supervision. Second policy that you have is called expenditure reducing policy. Now this one's a little harsher compared to the previous policy, because expenditure reducing का मतलब है that you want your aggregate demand, which is the same thing as aggregate expenditure, the total expenditure in the economy, you want it to fall. All right, you want people to buy less. Okay, you want the domestic residents, okay, you want the domestic people to buy less of imported and domestic goods, okay, and encourage the producers to sell abroad. Now clearly we can see you want the producer to sell abroad, जिससे exports बढ़ेगा at an expense of the people, domestic people. You don't want them to buy imported stuff, you don't want them to buy the domestic stuff. So what will they buy? Well, they'll buy less of everything, probably at a higher price. What's the method? Well, majorly you have two over here. You go for contractionary policies. If you remember, contractionary policies mein you had the fiscal policy, which had government spending and taxes. So since you are following a contractionary policy, you want the economy to slow down, you want government spending to fall, and you want the taxation to rise. People and businesses will have less money, so they'll be able to spend less. दूसरे एंड के ऊपर you will go for a contractionary monetary policy. monetary policy has the money supply and the interest rates. Since you want people to have less money, you reduce the money supply, and you want to reduce borrowing, you increase the interest rates. Collectively, this will definitely reduce the aggregate demand. Now, when I say this policy is harsher, it's because a fall in aggregate demand is not good for economy, because what it does is that it reduces the demand for goods and services in the local market, which causes the prices to fall, which causes the local industries not to be able to use a lot of resources. The unemployment happens, GDP falls down, right? So it has that contractionary AD shifting to the left and all the problems coming with it. तो ये दो हमारी मेजर पॉलिसी है.